one of the things that I say in my book is that when you grow up in a dysfunctional environment, the word familiar, because we focus towards the familiar, can be broken up into two words, family and liar, because your family lies to you about what a normal relationship should be. And then you unconsciously replicate that in your adulthood and you don't see it. You know, that's the thing. And that's why it comes down to like same person, different haircut when we go to your overview and you talk about this stuff. It's so poignant that that's exactly what happens. Yeah. And it's automatic.
And the way that it looks when I was really looking into this, it's highly volatile. There's a push and pull dynamic to it. It's a come close to me. Oh my gosh, I need my space. And what'll end up happening is the one side's highly polarized, that you meet somebody and it's like, it begins with pedestalization and love bombing. Oh my God, you're the greatest thing. Is extremely highly charged, sexualized. It's like love at first sight. And then what'll happen is that love bombing honeymoon stage is filled with dopamine and fantasy. And then there's a trigger that happens. There's some sort of a conflict, an activation from childhood that comes up that sends one of the two into a alarm, your word, and fear of engulfment, which is fear of being consumed, kicks in, or fear of abandonment. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose you, kicks in. And then that love bombing, there's an abrupt transition from love bombing to devaluing. What was once pedestalized, you're the greatest in the world, to you're not what I thought you were. And there's a push away, I'm out of here, discard. And this really deep, painful wound of fear of abandonment that comes up, that slowly then over time cycles back to the love bombing, then the devaluing, then the discarding. And the trauma bond happens from the abrupt transition from love bombing to devaluing.
And what I think the abrupt transition comes from is in the first 6 to 12 weeks, there's a whole whack of oxytocin when you get into this, you know, you want to spend every moment with them, you're phoning them, you're texting them 15 times a day. You know, there is this huge rush of oxytocin when it comes up, and it's very seductive because when you have that oxytocin dopamine kind of cocktail that goes in your system, nothing else really matters at that point. So
that's right.
And then, but what happens, I believe, is at 6 to 12 weeks, that oxytocin, that kind of drug, falls away, and then your background attachment strategy comes up to the forefront. So if you're an avoidant attachment, you'll be like, this is way too much for me, I'm getting engulfed. Or if you're an anxious attachment, it's like, now I'm so attached to this person that I'm a fear of abandonment. And then when that drug, that oxytocin cocktail, drops down in our system, we come back down to kind of a baseline state.
Reality kicks in.
Yeah. And I think that's when the cycle really, I mean, the cycle begins with the oxytocin, with the love bombing and that kind of thing. But, you know, that's a necessary step that creates this sort of angst in someone. It's like, then they start questioning, am I getting too close to this person? Is this person getting too close to me? And then that's when all the stuff starts to really kick in.
The co-dysregulation actually was happening from the get-go because of the fantasy. And so the question that I have, where does the fantasy come from? Because that's where it all begins.
I think we're all hardwired for connection. And when our connection, when we're younger, is kind of bastardized in a way, like when we're too attached to a parent in an unhealthy way, like when we're fawning over a parent, when we're looking after a parent, that becomes a program that gets fixed in our psyches and our neurology. And we will want to reproduce that program. There's a tremendous desire. There's a tremendous flash of neurohormones, neurotransmitters, when we see the vestiges of what we used to have or perceived that we had.
Or we didn't have, or we always wanted.
Yeah, but I think almost on an evolutionary basis, there is this compulsion that we have to connect to other people. We have this social engagement system, you know, eye contact, tone of voice, prosody of voice, body language, facial expression. We have this thing in our system that is so tuned to connection that we want it. And I think in a way, the more traumatic the childhood, the more seductive the desire to replicate it.